Hey class. Today we are going to be learning on how to make a kind of a fractured portrait of a person using probably a lot of the same photographs that we used last week. So this is essentially what we're trying to go for. Something that looks as though we've taken a photograph, cut it up into pieces, and then shifted it from left to right side, and then applying a nice, simple, smooth gradient. Basically, that smooth color you see where it goes from red to blue from corner to corner. So today we're going to be focusing a lot on how we work with our layers, and you can see that we've got a lot of layers, or I have a lot of layers open for today's assignment, and we'll need to do the same thing in order for you guys to get this finished. All right, so your first step for today is going into Pixlr E as always when it comes to any of our class assignments. And we're going to want to open one of the portraits I have provided in Google Classroom. I've already saved all these photos and they're on my desktop, but obviously you guys can use any one that you choose. I'm going to stick with the same person that I've been working with to try out this lesson the first time. So the first thing we're going to need to do when we have our portrait open of the person is that we're going to need to actually duplicate this background color. Now it may look like it's white to you looking in at some of these areas. However, it might actually just be a little bit grayer or a little bit darker than it would just be a pure white according to Pixlr. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new layer by hitting the plus sign over here on the right side of the screen. We're going to select empty. And you can see here now in our layers palette that we have a brand new empty layer, hence the black and white dots, or should say boxes that you can see here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to extract the color from this background and I'm going to apply it and fill it into this layer. So first of all, I want to make sure that my original photograph is what I have clicked over here in my layers palette, so you can see that it's highlighted blue. And I'm going to use a tool called the Picker tool. It kind of looks like a little eyedropper. When I do that, it's going to automatically select any color off this photograph and apply it to whatever color I have selected right here on top. So if I were to select this dark gray from his beard, or this lighter gray from his lips, you can see that it's automatically applying or uploading that color here. But what I want to do is use this picker tool to select the white background. Like I said, it might look white or pure white to you, but it might be just a little bit darker than what you actually think. It will be important for matching this color that I've just picked with the picker tool and have that filled in on this layer over here. So now that I've got this color selected, I need to go over here and I need to fill the background of this layer that I created earlier with that color right here. So I'm going to use the fill tool and I'm just going to click anywhere in the photograph and you can see that now that same colored background that I had from this photograph is now filled in this layer as well. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag that down underneath. Oh, I can't quite yet because I don't have this layer unlocked. In order to unlock a layer, meaning the original photograph, like you can see here that has the little lock pad, you've got to be able to unlock it, and meaning you are able to edit and move it around. I can do that by either double clicking on that little lock pad and making it go away, or there are options right here in your layers that you can either choose to unlock or lock a layer. And I want to go ahead and keep it unlocked. All right, so now what we need to do is we are going to be taking selections from this photograph, from this layer, and pasting them in new layers on top of the blank white canvas that we just created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off that layer number 2, and I'm going to make some marquee selections of this layer and then copy and paste them into some new ones. The tool we're going to be using to do that today is the Marquee Select. We talked a little bit about this in the first week or two of Pixlr lessons, that we have the lasso and the wand select tool that you guys have used, but the Marquee tool is great for selecting nice big square selections on your photographs. So I'm going to click the Marquee Select tool, and I'm going to start a little above the photograph and just click and drag to make a selection. Again, it's okay if it goes a little outside of the original photo. As you can see, it automatically constrained itself to the original. Now, I've made sure that I am in the background layer. And what I need to do is I just need to simply edit copy and then edit paste. And it should create a brand new layer for us that is a match, or I should say a copy of what I've just selected here. So I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, and then I'm going to click on Edit again and click on Paste. And what has happened is it has created a brand new copy of that part of the photograph that I had selected earlier. So you can see it's in a brand new layer. And with that layer, I can actually move and adjust that image by clicking on the Arrange tool and dragging that photo up to where it looks like it pretty much matches up with the original. Now, once I kind of have that matched up, what we want to do is something that looks a little bit like this, where you can see that each part of the photograph is kind of slid to either the left or the right. So what I'm going to do is just use my arrow keys on my computer board or on my laptop, and I'm just going to go ahead and click to the left on those arrow keys and drag that photo over to make it look like it's been slid over. All right, now all I need to do is repeat those same steps for the middle of his face and the bottom of his face. But I always have to double check what layers I am actually clicked on. So I'm going to go back to our background layer now that I finished this first cutout that I did. I'm going to make sure that this background layer, the original photograph, is selected. I'm going to go back to our Marquee tool, and I'm going to make another selection of the middle of his face. Once again, once I have that selected, I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, then go to Edit, Paste, and a brand new version of his middle of his face has now been selected, or copied and pasted, I should say. I'll go back to my Arrange tool. It should automatically select that thing that I copy-pasted over here in the layers. And this time I'm going to use my right arrow key on my keyboard to shift his face a little bit over to the right instead. And lastly, I just need to do this a third time for the bottom of his face down here. So again, I'll go back to my background layer. Always double check what layer it is that you're trying to copy and paste from. Background layer, the Marquee Select tool. I will click and drag for his neck and chin. I will edit copy, edit paste. And this time I'll make sure that I arrange it so that way it's right on the bottom of the photograph, and then use my arrow keys to shift it over a little bit to the left. All right, so we've done the most of the legwork when it comes to creating these brand new layers that you see here, where each of these is a part of his face. But since we want these three photos to look as though they're combined, all I need to do is make sure that I turned off my background layer by hitting the little checkbox. And you can see that now that we have the kind of staggered or shifted look of this person's face. Earlier, I turned off my layer number 2, which was the color background layer that we created at the beginning. And all I need to do is make sure that I turn that box back on. And you can see that now we've got the shifted kind of look that we're looking for in this particular day's lesson. Now, the last thing that you can see that I did to this photograph was I added that kind of colored background where we had this kind of nice gradient, or just gradient, meaning a change of color from one to another nice and smoothly, is that I applied that to it just to give it a nice cooler looking effect. So in order to do that is that I just need to select the gradient, the gradient tool right here on the right, but I got to make sure that I'm applying that in a final fresh new layer. So I'm going to come back over here to the layers palette. I'm going to click the plus sign once again like I did earlier. Click on empty. And as you can see, there's now a brand new blank empty layer in my layers palette. Now I'm going to go back over to the gradient tool that I talked about. And when I click on that, it's going to give me a couple options before I apply what colors that I want up here on the top. If I click on the gradient bar right here where it shows a white to black transition, I've got a couple things that I can click on to change whatever colors that I would like to add in there, or some of the presets that they have down here as well. So I can click on the white box right here, click on color, and I can change that to whatever color that I like. So I'm going to go with kind of a medium green, and then click OK. So you can see that green has now been applied to that gradient. And then I can click on the black box, click here, and I can choose another color that I want to transition. So maybe kind of a magenta purplish color. And you can see now I've got that green to purple transition selected for this tool. So long as you still have the gradient tool selected, all you have to do is just click and drag in whatever direction you want that gradient to be applied. So maybe from this corner to this corner. And you can see it's filled that gradient in. And the last thing I want to do to make sure that this gradient shows the person's face that we've just spent the time shifting is I'm going to go to my layers option right over here on the left side of the screen. Those three little dots. I'm sorry, the right side of the screen, and those three little dots. And then change the transparency this time to something that I find acceptable, that shows enough of the color and enough of the person's face. When I'm satisfied, this is now ready to go ahead and finish and turn in. So as you saw in this example, I only did 3 of the kind of face shifts where I turned the person's face from left to right to make it look as though it's been separated. The other example I showed you guys at the beginning of class had 5 different shifts. I'm asking that for this lesson that you guys please make sure that you do at least 3 like I showed in this tutorial video, but you're welcome to do as many as you like. Thank you guys for following along and trying to get this lesson, and this will be due at the end of class on Thursday before you guys take your 3-day weekend with no school on Friday. Don't forget to file save, make sure you turn it into Google Classroom, and you guys should be all set for this week's lesson. Thank you guys for working on lesson number 6, and let me know if you have any problems. Bye.